Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. This is Langley Outdoors Academy, and thank you for stopping by. All right, guys, tonight we're going to do a snippet of a segment from The View. Now, don't go anywhere. I hate The View myself. I cannot stand that show, but it's something important that was put in front of me. They discuss gun rights, but not just any gun rights like they normally would. They didn't obliterate it from the left. One of the hosts, who's not a conservative, bought a gun. The audience had raucous laughter in response until they realized she was serious, and then they were dead silent. And it just so happens that this left-leaning individual is a black, female American. She has every right that we do. If you look like me, or if you look like this, or you look like you, I don't know who you are. But the point is we all have this right, and she encapsulates perfectly the motivation of millions of minority, female, or majority Americans who are taking this self-preservation into their own hands. It is a blessing in the Second Amendment in the Constitution. This is not something that we should take lightly, and they are not doing it. I'm going to dive into this in 1 second, but first, I just want to make a quick announcement about bullet points, and then we'll get to this. So the bullet point shows, I'm going to have to postpone those for about a week. I'm going to pick it up again at the end of next week. Thank you so much for you guys who are reaching out. We're concerned that you weren't getting them. I just haven't been able to make them. I've had to put that energy into another project, but they will come back at the end of next week. Don't you worry, because I love those segments. I know you guys do too. But enough of that. Let's dive right into this, because this is everything. Spread this out, because this one right here shows you where the left is, and this is massive. But enough of me. Let's get it.
Black women were becoming gun owners, and you just became one of them, Sherry, didn't you?
Yes, I did. I bought a 9mm.
Why?
Gun because, well, I don't know why you laughing, but
I can tell you why they're laughing, because they're a left-leaning audience, and they think the idea of someone owning a gun to defend themselves is laughable. And one of our leftist hosts would never do that. But then they realized she was serious, and they shut up, and they do not make another noise until an anti-gun contributor starts to talk. Listen to this, because this woman right here, this host, Sherry Shepard, perfect example and understanding of why minorities are doing this. Check this out.
you know, during the quarantine, I felt really helpless, Joy. And we're talking about depression. I felt like Jeffrey would look at me like, you know, he was so scared. I get these little alerts in my neighborhood app about it's going to be a march through the neighborhood. And I started feeling like, how am I going to protect my son if something happens? And I got some of my girlfriends who are actresses, and we all went to a gun shop in California. There's only 2 Black-owned gun shops. I think it was like a Redstone Firearms, Geneva and Jonathan. And we went, and I felt very empowered when I bought this gun. I took lessons.
All right. 2 things there that supersede any political affiliation in the United States that she's describing. The need to protect yourself, your property, and your offspring. That supersedes any political affiliation, and that's what she's describing right now. People laughed at her in her own show, and she didn't care. She just brushed it off, said, no, this is why I did it. She did everything right. She bought the gun legally. She went to a gun shop. She got the training. She goes to a gun range, and she passed the class. Now, I don't agree with the class part, but that's what she did. Listen, we're going to keep going, because then Sunny Houston, who's far left progressive, comes in. Listen to what she says. This is important.
I took the test. I go to the range with my girlfriends like every other week. And it just makes me feel like at least if something happens, I can protect my child.
She said it perfectly right there. Perfectly. She feels empowered, which is what's happening underneath the surface of the United States around the population and gun control and gun rights. That's what we're documenting across the board. These gun sales that are going through the roof, the gun rights that are slowly going up in all these different states, and the left is on the defensive, or at least holding its own. This is what they're talking about. But let's get to the Sunny Houston here.
I've had so many friends, my Black girlfriends, also get guns, especially during the pandemic. And they wanted me to get a gun.
And that was it. I've had so many of my Black girlfriends want to buy guns. That's what she just said. And they wanted me to buy a gun. This is not an isolated incident. This is why this is happening. But now, listen to what Joy Behar says, and you tell me who are the bad people here, okay? Listen to this. This is crazy.
Okay, no, because I'm a big gun control person. Back in the 60s, the NRA fought alongside the government for stricter gun regulations. Why? Because there was an effort to keep the guns out of the hands of African Americans as racial tensions grew.
Yeah. They wouldn't even give Dr. King a concealed carry permit, the same man that was killed by gun violence.
I can't stand the condescension there. Two things. One, that was 60 years ago and it was in the South, and that was a terrible thing. No one should be denied their gun rights because it's part of the Constitution. That's one. Two, Democrats were the ones who did that, and it wasn't against all African Americans, it was against Black Panthers. Not saying pro or con, I'm just saying it's a little different than they presented it. The third thing here, MLK was denied a concealed carry permit by a Democratic governor, by a Democratic government in the South, because they said, no, you don't need that, we'll protect you, you could hurt yourself. Does that sound familiar? They didn't begin to mention that, did they? And they must have slipped their minds. This is important, guys, because you call them on their crap like this because it's simple if you know your history. But they didn't feel like they brought that up. But let's dive into the last one, and this is where Sherry, the person who bought the gun, wraps it back up perfectly. I mean, I couldn't have paid an ad for better than this.
But I'm saying, as a single woman,
Yeah.
the helplessness I felt. And when I looked at my son and he looked at me like, Mom, I'm scared.
Yeah.
I knew physically I'm not able to combat. I take self-defense lessons.
What do you think, Essie, about
Nailed it. She just said, I can't physically compete with somebody who wants to do harm to me or my son. I bought a gun. Yes! You empowered yourself, you protected your life, your liberty, and your pursuit of happiness and your family at the same time. Welcome to the party. If anyone on this planet, if you are a legal gun owner and you are an American and you feel like you need to embrace the Second Amendment, I will support you and you have a place on this channel. But the whole point is, it's not the people on the right like myself when it comes to gun rights saying you can't have guns and laughing at you. It's the left. These people are terrible. Analyze that, because it's not about who is telling you what you can and can't do. It's who's laughing at you when you embrace rights that are given to you. And that's why I brought this interview to you guys, because this is so crucial, and this is the underlying current of the culture war that we're fighting. Until tomorrow, I'm Braden. See you later.